Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on what side of the pond you're on, and welcome to an extra special edition of Across the Pitch. It's the Accrington Stanley 2021-22 season roundup. My name is Phil Kennedy, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Tony Robinson and Darren Woodhead, where we're going to look back on the Ackie season that was, with just one remaining game left coming up this Saturday at AFC Wimbledon. It's been a season of ups and downs, or Jekylls and Hydes, if you will. And at the end of the day, it's going to see Accrington Stanley spend another year in League One for 2022-23, which is the ultimate goal every year with a club of Accie's size. But beyond that, we want to kind of dig deep into a season that I would say that most people probably weren't 100% satisfied with. First and foremost, welcome to the show, guys, and great to chat with you as always.
Hey, guys, how are you doing? How's Tony going on? How are you going on in Florida, Matt?
I'm doing well. I've still got those shorts on from the 1970s. But
no, they'll be getting a bit tight now, won't they? After all that,
at
they're the flexible waistband. I've had that put in there. So yeah. No, everything's good. We're still here. Still got some cash left, and still got some beer to drink. So we'll be here for another week or so.
So
I hope you saved some of the Guinness, because I saw those other beers you were drinking. Oh,
well, there's some Guinness in the fridge, Phil.
Hey, well, I have to come down. You ever had an Irish car bomb before, Tony?
An Irish? No, I haven't.
That's what you do is you take a shot glass and you fill it 3/4 of the way with Bailey's Irish cream. And then the other quarter of the shot glass, you top it off with like an Irish whiskey, maybe, whatever your Irish whiskey of choice would be. And then you take another glass and you fill that with half a pint of Guinness. Then you take the shot glass, drop it in, and you pound the whole thing down in one drink. It's called an Irish car bomb, and it tastes like chocolate milk going down. I tell you, if you haven't had one, well worth a try. I wouldn't have more than one or two, though.
What's it taste like coming back up?
You beat me to it, Tom.
Well, that's why I said just keep it with one or two, and then you'll enjoy it.
Before we get on to some football, I just, when we're talking on our sound check, the little trivia question came up, and I thought it was worth repeating, is what does the band Chicago and Across the Pitch have in common?
Sorry.
We both spent Saturday at the park.
Well, that too, but we've had about 40 co-hosts, 40 members. Anyway, okay, Phil, over to you. Back to you. Let's. What do you want to chat about, Phil? What's on your agenda?
Well, we had a lot to chat about. I mean, I think first and foremost, since the season isn't quite finished yet, do you want to give our quick thoughts on what we think will happen this Saturday with Wimbledon, and then move on to the season review after?
Well, a win on Saturday, Darren.
Well, when you look at what's happened so far this season, absolutely anything could happen, couldn't it? I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, hopefully a win.
Yeah, on paper it should be a win.
About the Jekylls and Hydes, I mean, you just never knew what you were going to get from game to game, and I think that's going to be a reoccurring theme. But Wimbledon, they always seem to be one of those teams that for whatever reason we play them late in the season, and they're a team that we might not be seeing again next season. We might be kind of putting them out of their League One miseries, if you will.
Well, can they stay up, or is that? I'm just looking. Yeah, their goal difference is not good. But if they get 3 points, they're on 40. They could jump over Gillingham, but then Fleetwood would have to get beat bad, I think. So
yeah, there's a seven goal difference. AFC Wimbledon minus 25. Fleetwood is at minus 18. So yeah, Wimbledon is at 37 points. So if they won against Stanley, if Fleetwood were to drop their last match, they'd be tied. But yeah, I mean, Fleetwood would need to lose by 7, or Stanley would need to have a real bad.
I think that might make a difference if they know that mathematically it's going to be next to impossible. They don't have as much to play for other than their jobs. But well, like Darren said, who knows? I'm going to pick a win, but anything's on the table.
I mean, I think that Stanley has a history of doing well in these very late season matches. I know we've talked quite a few times about how they ended the season with Pompey last year. And AFC Wimbledon is a team that we should beat. Doesn't always happen that way with Stanley. That's certainly been one of the problems, is that we don't always beat the teams that we should beat. But I think we're going to have a strong finish. Like you said, Wimbledon's already looking at knowing that they're probably going down. They're probably not going to be in the best of spirits heading into the last match. I'm going to go 3-1 to the Stanley.
Yep, I hope you're right, Phil.
Yep. I'm curious, too, and I just want to ask Darren this, if I can, is because Darren obviously saw the matches live at the WHAM, and we saw just on iFollow, which is, I mean, it's great watching on iFollow, but you don't get you can't look around the pitch like you've just got to follow what the camera shows you. What was your overall impression, Darren, of the way they played this season?
The way they played this season, well, I think, as we've alluded to already, it was just the good, the bad, the indifferent, just a bit of everything, inconsistency. Some games, I mean, I didn't go to too many away games. I only went to a handful, and I know we've had some thrashings on the road, haven't we? In general, home form, we've got good results, but again, some really disappointing performances, and then the week after they'd be running away with the game, and we've beat the top of the league, we've lost to the bottom of the league, we've thrown points away against teams like Morecambe, we've only got 2 draws when we should have had 6 points for me, and it's just I can't make sense of most of it, to be honest.
One of the things that we talked about was going back to our season beginning predictions, and at the beginning of the season, one of the things that I had looked at is that Stanley last year finished 11th in the table, and I was hoping that they would at least get to 10th and mark an improvement. This is going to be the first year in about 4 or 5 years that Stanley will have not improved in the table. Where we're sitting at right now, 58 points, 13th. If we're able to win, we only sit 1 point behind Charlton. So if Charlton were to lose and draw and we win on Saturday, we would finish 12th, which is only 1 spot of where we did last year. Really, the biggest concerns to me are last year, we finished with 67 points. The best we can do this year is 61 points. So that's going to show a regression there. The other thing, and I've really looked at this all season, is where we're at in the table is perhaps better than we should be. Our goal difference in 13th place is at negative 20. Right above us, Charlton is 0. And then you move up 1 to Ipswich. They're a plus 17. Essentially, everybody ahead of us in the table is on the plus side of the goal difference. And then even if you go further down the table, you see teams like Shrewsbury's only a -1. Lincoln's only a -9. So, if anything, we might be lucky to be in 12th or 13th based on performance when you look at the numbers.
If you look at those goals for and against, our numbers are quite similar to Fleetwood, and they're sitting on 40 in 20th spot. So John Coleman talks about fine margins and that, but I think we're fortunate to be where we are with when you look at if you break down those numbers, because
Last year we were only -5, so it's 20 worse than we were last year.
Yeah, I mean, we've won some games. I mean, if you look at as I say, goals for and against, I mean, you would think those numbers are bottom half or bottom 5 or 6 teams the way that you look at those numbers.
Yeah, the only thing I can say compared to some previous times where we've always analysed where we're going season on season, moved up a couple of places. The only, well, not the only thing, the one thing, bigger picture to look at is, I suppose, where we are as a club compared to 12 months ago. So, yeah, we might have stuck a slight backward step in the league table, but as a club, you look at the ground and the infrastructure, the academy, just everything that's going on around there and how stronger we are a year on from what we were. So going into next season, that gives me a lot more confidence than, even if we've to do a reshuffle in the team, which everybody does every year anyway, but we're in a stronger position to then go again.
It seems that this season the on-pitch performances have been are not exceeding the off-pitch performances. What I mean by the facilities and the academy and the under-23s, obviously, with the youth team, they've had a really good run and good season, and the under-23s are producing some quality players. So, yeah, I think the optimism is what's taken place off the pitch this year. So I agree with that, Darren. It's just that I guess when I look at the predictions, maybe we were overestimating build on the success of last year, but I think I was looking somewhere between 7th and 10th. I thought that we might challenge for a playoff and finish just outside. To be honest with you, I don't have my notes from that show. They're back in Canada, so I can't say exactly what I predicted, but I think that's what it was. What do you remember? What you guys?
I think you said 8th. I recall. I want to think.
Okay.
I think Tony said we'd win the league. I'm sure he said he'd win the league by 10 points.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad I didn't put a tenner on the automatic promotion.
Yeah. So what about player of the season, guys? What's your thoughts on who's been the best players?
I think a challenger for the best player this season, to me, I think Michael Nottingham, that was picked by the supporters trust. I think that's a safe pick because he's a really good professional, and he's probably been one of the most consistent players, and he's contributed with some key goals. But I'm leaning towards Ethan Hamilton because I think he's really been one of the top signing and is playing the midfield and he contributes with goals and assists. And he always seems to be involved in the play. I'd have to give Ethan Hamilton my vote.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I'm going to go with a bit of maybe a surprising pick, just because I'm just so impressed by what this guy was able to do at this point in his career, and that's Sean McConville. I don't think anybody would have expected that we would see 44 starts and 3,800 minutes out of Sean McConville, out of all the injuries and things like that he's struggled with over the past few years. And then to be able to add 4 goals and 12 assists this year. The other thing that I look at is when I look at numbers for on-off the pitch in terms of the plus-minus ratio. Sean McConville is at a plus 1.13, which is the best ratio on the team. So basically what that means is when he was on the pitch, we were scoring goals and giving up goals at a better ratio than any other outfield player on the team. team. Toby Savin actually ranked a 1.15. He was the best of the team, but McConville was the best of the outfield players in terms of that. So, I mean, I just think the fact that, we were able to get all of that time out of him, especially because in the midfield with Joe Pritchard out most of the season, up front with Dion Charles away. I mean, if McConville had not been able to play that much this year, I think that we'd probably be looking at a relegation. So I'm going to go with Sean McConville.
Yeah, fair enough. I think my two, when I had to make my choices via the Supporters Trust, I went with the two who Tony mentioned, Michael Nottingham and Ethan Hamilton. But I just went for Nottingham, not because he's safe for me, but I've just enjoyed watching him play the most. And I think he's played every league game this season, all 45 so far. It's just the way he plays, the way he conducts himself. He's just fantastic professional for me, and everything about him. I like the way he interacts with the fans, the young fans. He's just a great guy. But like Tony said, Hamilton, he's come along really nicely. He's destined for a good career, I think. Hopefully a little bit longer with us, but I think he's definitely got potential to play at a higher level.
The good thing is Hamilton does have 1 year left on his contract. He signed a 2-year deal then in 21-22, so he will be back next year for sure.
That leads me to a point that I listened to on one of John Coleman's interviews just recently, that he mentioned that two players that he thought championship clubs could be interested in over the summer season. So he never said who, but so that leads you to sort of names that he could be referring to. And I'm just wondering if Ethan Hamilton might be one of those because of the season he had. And I'm not sure if Joe Pritchard could be included in that because of his injuries, but Ross Sykes has to be a name that, and is Colby Bishop one? Is Toby Savin one? What's your thoughts on two players that could go to the championship if somebody come in for them?
Yeah, I think he's probably pointing at Ross Sykes and Colby Bishop personally, but it could be a number of the other ones, especially the younger guys like Toby Savin and Ethan Hamilton. But I think he probably thinks Sykes and Bishop are perhaps ready for the championship. I'm on a little bit of a different, individually, right? Ross Sykes, I'm a big fan of Ross's career, but I think he's played well this season, but I think the discipline has perhaps let him down a little bit, and I think he just needs to cut that out of his game. A bit of petulant behaviour from time to time. I'm sure he'll sort it out, and when he does, he'll kick on again. Again, same with Colby Bishop. I see him more as getting probably a move to a club within our division. I can't really see him at this point as a championship striker, but I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. So I think he's probably those two. And I think Ross has only a year left on his contract, if I'm not mistaken. So
actually, from what I read, Ross is out of contract. Of the guys that have been mentioned, both Ross and Bishop are out of contract.
Right. Can they not invoke another year, though, the club, and then it takes it into... I'm not sure. There may be something where the club can invoke that extra year as long as they offer so much money. So that'd mean they have a year left. I'm not sure of how it all works, but that's the gist of it. So I think it'd make good business sense and career sense for those to move on if that's the case.
Now, Savin, he still has a year left. Just looking through here, a few guys. Pritchard, he still has a year left. Pell and Morgan, they have 2 years left. Isherwood is actually out of contract, which surprised me a bit, but I figure we'd probably re-sign him. Savin, he has a year left. Sykes is out of contract. Hamilton has a year left. McConville's out of contract. Nottingham has a year left. So, we have a lot of guys that are either out of contract or are going into the last year. And it looks like from the research that I had done, most guys are being signed to a 3-year deal these days.
Yeah, is Seamus under contract?
Let me take a quick look.
I thought he could have been running out of contract, so I would imagine.
Yeah, his contract expires June 30th, 2022. So, yeah, he'll be out of contract this summer also. So
you'd expect if he does get a contract, more of perhaps a short-term contract, a small, given his age.
Yeah. Right here, probably.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's missed some games, but I think a lot of that has been due to injury, isn't it? His absence.
Yeah, definitely.
Now we touched on.
He's played in 21 matches. He's played in about half the games this year. Well,
just before when we were talking, we touched on the discipline, and Darren, you mentioned about Ross Sykes. So I sort of piqued my interest on. Because I don't consider Accrington a dirty team by any means. But I thought, well, I wonder where they sit in this fair play table. And when you look at the numbers, it's really not good at all. They had 6 reds and 8 yellow-red combinations. So I think they finished second in the points table to Charlton Athletic, but
Tony, do you know how many of those were in 2022 after the new year? Because it feels like it's just been like every other week, especially the past month or so.
No, this is just based on the season, Phil. So I didn't dwell into that. It's funny because when you look by positions in the entire League One, there's only been 3 goalkeepers been sent off for a red card, and Accrington Stanley have been involved in every one of those matches, which is kind of interesting. Well, we know Toby Salmon's been sent off twice, and once for handling the ball outside the area, and Fleetwood, when we played Fleetwood, their keeper was thrown out because he grabbed the ball outside the box as well. It seems I think that's the part, the discipline that we touched on. I think that's got to be. It's got to be addressed, and if the silly yellow cards then leads to another yellow card, or and you look at the calls, and sometimes you sort of say the ref give a soft card, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and I think we have to move to improve. Well, it seems like quite a few of them were late in the game, and I know Mitch Clark won a straight red when it was. In injury time, so I just feel that you've got to cut back on the red cards and the silly yellow cards that lead to a second yellow or whatever. Because I think the discipline's got to be improved for just for the team to be to have better results on the pitch.
Yeah, and I think like you said earlier, Tony. I mean. It's not like they're a physical team or a dirty team. It's nowhere near the fight. So that makes it even more bewildering, really. I mean, you look at I think Tommy Lee got sent off one game, didn't he? I bet he doesn't get sent off many times the rest of his career. How long he plays with the way he plays football. Incidentally, he's had a good start into professional football this season as well, hasn't he, Tommy Lee?
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that he would have come in and did what he did, and I mean he's one of those guys that you almost pencil in right off the bat when on the game sheet. Really, is Tommy Lee.
6 goals. He's tied for second on the team, and that's with only 16 starts. Anybody else that scored close to that has played twice as much.
One player that impressed me when he got the opportunity and come in and has made that right back position his own is Mitch Clark. I think he's really improved his play, and I think he's another one that you pencil in for starting position next year as well.
Yeah, did well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're definitely in a bit of a transitionary time. I think last year we were talking about how many of the players that were part of the League Two championship team have gone away, and now really Seamus and McConville are the only two that are left at this point. And I think that we're going to start seeing a turnover of sorts. I don't know if it's going to be 2011 all over again, but do you guys think that we're going to see the most significant turnover that we've seen with the roster maybe over the past 5 years coming up during the offseason? I think I could definitely see that.
I'm not too sure, to be honest, Phil. I mean, there's certain positions where we really do need to strengthen. I mean, up front, for instance, where we could. I mean, I don't think we ever got over the fact, whatever anybody says, losing Dion Charles really so late. I think it disrupted so many things within the season. Yeah, I mean, I know we want to park it up again about him because we all got a little bit fed up of talking about him. But if you want to do a review of the season, I don't think you can ignore the fact that on the eve of the season starting to lose one of your two established strikers. I mean, it never really happened then, did it? I mean, between how many players
between Charles, no problem. I was just going to say between Charles and Pritchard being out with an injury, conservatively speaking, that's 25 goals.
Yeah, agreed.
And don't forget the other one that I think was one of the key factors of getting the season off on the wrong foot was the Burgess transfer, because he was a settled and probably may have been the leader of the back four, and when he left, they really didn't address that position. They didn't replace any with of a player with equal caliber. And I think that was, you add those three things in, Pritchard, Dion Charles, and Burgess, and that's a lot to overcome. And I think those are key points for why the season turned out the way it did.
Well, absolutely. I think that you make a great point there, because I think that Burgess kind of gets lost in the mix because he was traded before the season. But yeah, I mean, especially with the experience that him and Nottingham brought together, and then if you have those guys back there, maybe you don't have some of the disciplinary issues with Sykes and Savin getting so many red cards, because maybe that's another veteran saying, hey, chill out.
Darren, you saw obviously Rich Bagaloo up close. How do you think he's progressing? Does he have a future at the left back position?
Yeah, I don't see him as a left back, a traditional left back. He more of a central defender for me. But time will tell. Like I said, I've been wrong before, but my gut instinct is looking at him and size. He might be able to play, if you're playing five at the back as of three, he might be okay on the left-hand side of those. But I don't see him as an out-and-out full-back like Mitch Clark and playing as in the back four, for instance, or something like that. But he looks like, he's a typical John Coleman type player, run through brick walls, and, he looks like he gives everything he's got, and I'm sure he'll look forward to settling in a little bit more. I mean, he's only played a few games, so it's a bit difficult to say at the moment.
Yeah, I think that if you want to look at addressing or bringing players in, maybe that's a position that they want to look at as a left back. And for me, again, I think you said it earlier, Darren, is we got to have somebody that a Dion style type player. And that I mean somebody that's got pace and can run the channels that will make Bishop more effective, because Bishop's hold-up play and distribution is really, really good. But if you're not playing with a set strike partner, and I think that's where he had a tough season, because if the defenders, they key on Colby Bishop, and there really wasn't anybody consistently that he played with that he could sort of develop some chemistry. So I think those two positions are ones that I think need to be addressed.
Yeah, I mean, we started off the season with Joel and Bongo, didn't we? And we always try and be positive about players on this podcast, but it just didn't work for him, did it? It was a letdown really before he got injured. From being excited about him signing, Goalie came on. I remember him coming on TV saying how excited he was. He got him, and he showed glimpses of having some talent, and it never happened for him, did it? He just didn't get the early goals, and he just seemed to get frustrated and lost his way before he got injured.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like from the striker position overall, we just didn't get the production we needed to. I mean, Colby got his 10 goals, but I mean, if you look down the charts, I mean, most of our goals came from the midfield and even defenders. And I think that it's going to be crucial for us to make sure that we do bring back Colby, because at this point, we're going into the off season with 0 experienced strikers under contract. And like you said, it's important to have chemistry and be able to, have guys that know the system. And I'm just concerned that if Colby does leave, we're going to be in a position where we have to bring in 2 brand new strikers next year. And I would rather, like Tony said, be looking for that one guy that's going to complement Colby than having to bring in 2 or even 3 guys and kind of hope 2 of them stick.
Well, like Darren said, I think there's some of those contracts are going to be automatically extended if they present an offer to the player, and it might be, within a certain range of what he was paid or a certain percentage of increase, a rise on it. But it's hard to say at this moment, because once the season is over with, then that gets into full blown gear, is getting these contracts sorted. But I think Colby Bishop is the type of person, because of how much he's developed under John and Jimmy, that I think he would extend his contract. And if an offer came in, a goal, but that way it would allow Stanley to get some compensation. And I think that's the type of player that people, a lot of the players that I've seen and talked to are the type would say, yeah, I'll sign a contract, and then if somebody else comes along, I can go, because then the club gets rewarded and take a proper professional position, not like what Dion Charles did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely. Mean, Colby seems like a guy that likes being at Stanley too.
Yeah. One other point, just moving on from the strikers a little bit, and one thing that I've always sort of been a little bit of a bee in my bonnet, and Jimmy Bell mentioned it when he came on, that we always throw everything, all our eggs in one basket. We see young keepers. I would love to see an experienced keeper come in, either to put pressure on Toby or to replace Toby if he fancies moving. Someone, late 20s, 30-year-old, may have to pay a little bit more money, but I'd just love to see a settled, experienced keeper, me.
Well, yeah, because you're going in if Toby's not playing, and then you've got young Liam Isherwood coming in, and I thought he handled the pressure and coming off the bench and playing those matches. I thought he handled it well, but he is inexperienced, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I think that makes a lot of sense, having a seasoned veteran there to challenge and to push and to teach Toby Savin.
Yeah, definitely. I think Liam Isherwood's next move will probably to go out on loan, I would have thought, into conference or something like that. If we do have 2 other keepers, just to get some game time and, build up his experience.
Yeah, and I think it's important that guy not be a loan, because we've had too many situations where we brought in a loan keeper and then had him called back to the other club, or he just wasn't maybe into being here or whatnot. You need to find that veteran, like you said, who wants to be here, sign a long-term contract, maybe spend 3 years with the club, and be that guy who isn't afraid to step back and let the young guys play, but will also be the experienced guy that can step in if there's an injury or somebody moves on or whatnot.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of experience, and I thought this year, I don't want to get your guys' take on it. There seemed to be a sense of frustration with coming out from John Coleman in his post-match interviews. It didn't seem to have that excitement, or he seemed to be a little bit down most of the time. Did you guys get any read on that, or am I not reading it right?
No, well, I definitely think. I mean, our friend Harry Austin texts me about once every other week, and he just says he's getting a different vibe from Coleman. So definitely not just you.
Yeah, I think with John Coleman, he's all about winning, isn't he? And if he's not winning, he's you see a different side of him and different reaction altogether. So I think he was getting frustrated by the results at times. But I do know what you mean. Tony did seem a bit unhappy with his lot, didn't he?
Yeah, I just think there was times where he was, and he got to the point where he wouldn't talk about the referees anymore because it doesn't get you anywhere at the end of the day. But I think he was disappointed in some of the actions of the players on the pitch, and I mean you've got to ask that question too. I think because of what happened down the road at Burnley, a manager was let go without that was totally against what people would think. I'm not saying that John Coleman will be let go, but are we looking at the last year or two of John Coleman and Jimmy Bell at the helm of Stanley? Do you think if he has another year of frustration that he might just pack it in? What's your thoughts, guys?
Well, it's possible, as everybody gets older and, you start not enjoying it. I think the only pressure from John Coleman will come from within himself, not from within anybody at the club or, with Andy Holt or anybody on the board. I think it'll all come down to how much he's enjoying it. And I think he's a real football man, isn't he? He lives for football, and I'm sure he'll want to be involved in some way or another. But if it doesn't make you happy week after week, but I mean, it'll all change. If we get on a good run next season and start looking upwards towards promotion, he'll be happiest man in on Merseyside, won't he?
Well, I think he would want to stick around. I would hope that he thinks he can get another promotion within the next year or two. And I think if, like we talked about, contracts and players that could go and could be around, this squad next season, if the contracts are extended and you bring one or two other players in, this could be the last year of the core of this group. Does John Coleman want to go through a rebuild if they don't push through, if they don't challenge for a playoff next year? I think next season is really going to be a key season for the club on the pitch. The last season it's been off the pitch, but I think next season the focus is going to be on the pitch. That's just my take on it anyway.
I guess my question would be, I guess there could be frustration from game to game and certainly issues with the refs and things like that. But if you look at the totality of everything John Coleman's gone through over the last 20 years with Accrington Stanley and, some of the financial situations, realistically, things are better now than they've ever been exponentially. Why would he leave now when things are better than they've ever been?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about, it's eras moving from one era, one team. And like you said, it feels like the end of an era with this team. But I mean, you got to remember, he's been through it so many times. And the first time he did it, and it's, 20 odd years ago, but that first team was all his friends, really, who were playing. He was playing himself, and he had to break that team up and move on again. And, and it's just continuous in football, isn't it? So, get some fresh players in and probably give him a new lease of life again and start looking up towards top end of League One.
Yeah, well said. One last thing I wanted to ask is, we didn't touch on is do you have the best match of the season, like what's your thoughts on which was the top match or the best result?
For me, I think the game over Christmas, the Rotherham win at home. Just all round atmosphere, late winner, atmosphere. It was absolutely fantastic that day. It was unbelievable. And outside of the promotions and big cup wins, that game and afterwards, the way the fans celebrated, it's got to be up there in probably my top 10 games ever on Stanley at home games. So I'd definitely go for that game.
Yeah, I had that one down too, Darren. Phil, what was your pick?
Well, I mean, there were two that really stuck out to me, and those were the win at home against Oxford and the win away against Fleetwood. And the reason that I picked those two is because coming into each of those matches, we were in a 6-game winless skid and were able to kind of snap out of it. And those were really our two lowest points of the season. And I think if not for those two wins, that we maybe would have been in a relegation battle, and it just really seemed like those were the games that we were able to kind of turn things around and get back to where we needed to be.
I'm going to jump in with a wish for next season, and I'd like to see cup runs for in either the league or the FA Cup, because last season was such a disappointment. I mean, losing 5-1 at Port Vale. And to Oldham over in penalties 5-4, and poor Oldham Athletic are out of the Football League. I mean, to me, I'd like to see a good cup run, and hopefully it brings in a bit of cash to the club. But I think it's good for the fans and the excitement it would bring. So that's one thing I would like to see next year.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Darren.
We need a Wembley appearance, don't we? In Papa John's or whatever it's called. I think that'd be great. One other thing I wanted
I keep telling Harry that I say, John Coleman won't leave until he gets to Wembley at least.
Yeah. Perhaps that might be it. Yeah, his swan song.
I'll tell you. With Phoenix Rising in what's called the U.S. Open Cup, which is our version of the FA Cup, Phoenix Rising hadn't won a game since 2017. Finally, this year, they've won a couple times, and they're into the 4th round now. And I've got to say, I'd always been a who cares guy, but cup runs are fun. So, yeah, let's have a couple next year.
Oh, definitely.
What other thoughts did you guys have before we wrap up? Did we want to make predictions for next season, or is it too early? I think that one of the things that we have to look at is over the past few years, the fan base of Accrington Stanley has really grown exponentially. And while things may have taken a step back on the pitch this season, they definitely made a step forward in terms of infrastructure, like we talked about earlier. But the other place that we're making step forwards with is just the attention, the amount of fans that Accrington Stanley has here with Across the Pitch. We're all about growing the international fan base, but I know that there's a lot of new fans starting to crop up at the Wham Stadium, and that's a welcome thing, because I mean that's new revenue for the club. And Darren, you're starting to see a lot of new faces in the crowd, aren't you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you can look at it in the last, 4 years, from the promotion to now, we've probably doubled our home gate, haven't we? So it's all positive. Even, the running at the end of the season, we weren't challenging for anything, and all the crowds were still strong. They're all going in the new bars, etc. And, there's a good vibe about the place. There's obviously changes. I mean, behaviours culturally with the whole setup. I mean, it's just gone through that much change. It's like anything else in life, isn't it? Change is difficult for some people, and for the current fans. I think the current fans find it a little bit difficult when the newer supporters get on John Coleman's back after a result because they don't understand the full picture and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, here with the Phoenix Suns basketball team, we have something similar where we went through a 10-year stretch where the Phoenix Suns didn't qualify for the playoffs, which might not make sense to European sports fans, but it's a big deal in basketball. It just basically means the team was really bad for 10 years. And now for the last 2 years, we've been contending for a championship. And, it's gone from the stadium being half empty to sold out. And there's a lot of backlash from the longtime fans against the so-called bandwagon people. But it's success is part of success is bringing in new fans and new faces. And what you want to do is you want to see the team keep those fans around and build upon that, because I mean the only way that teams get better and make more money is to bring more fans into the stadium, sell more merchandise, sell more concessions, and then that leads to buying bigger players and promotions and things like that. So I mean I think that part of it is understanding that, if you're somebody that's followed the game for 30 years and that, somebody else has maybe only followed the game for 2 years, that they're not going to have that same understanding that you will, but that's not their fault. And as longtime fans, we want to educate those people and not bash them per se.
Exactly. No, I totally agree with that, Phil, and I do feel for some of the new fans. I think they get a bit of a hard time on the social media, and they do tend to get ganged up on a little bit, when they come out with comments. And they may not have been around for 20, 30 years, but they've got every right to say what they think. But like you say, it's a little bit of education, I suppose, and we all have to get on as well. We all want the same thing, don't we?
Well, one of the things that we're obviously going to see a lot younger fans is because of the shirt giveaway that they started, I think 4 or 5 years ago. I think, Darren, but I mean those kids are going to be getting to that age where they're going to be able to come to the match on their own, and you're going to get a young base. But they have, as they grow into the team, and then they understand and they'll become more mature with their opinions. But it's you've got to attract more fans, and when you get more fans, you get fans that don't have the history, and that's just part of the process. But I'd rather see more people come through the turnstiles, and then you can always educate them once they're there. So. Anyway, I think
that's the whole reason. That's the whole reason that I started this show in the first place, is because when I really started getting deep into football, I knew that I didn't know as much about football as I did about American sports I've been watching for 30 years. So that was the whole point of the show. Is I knew that I had a lot of questions and wanted to learn more about football, and then as I was asking those questions, hopefully be able to educate other new fans. I mean, Tony, you posted that very first episode out for Throwback Thursday recently, and I mean, looking back when I recorded that episode, I didn't even have a full understanding of what the Wham business was at that point. So I mean, it's just a learning experience for everybody.
Yeah, I think we've gone through a lot today, and to answer the other question there a few minutes ago, Phil, is I think it's too early to predict for next season, because you can't do any prediction until you know what your lineup is going to be, and you don't know who's leaving and who's coming. Mm-hmm. So I think we saved that for a preview show. But I think it's as we said, it's fine margins in this league, and if we can get a couple of players in that we talked about on the show. You should never know. I mean, you win some of those, cut some of those goals against. I mean, some of those matches where we had some defensive nightmares, and we get better discipline on the pitch. Anything's possible. And the one thing I think pleases me the most is that we are considered an established League One team, and And when you say that, and Darren knows better than anybody because of where the club has come from. When you say that, that's you still got to say that's a nice thing to say.
Oh, I was just thinking the same
Here,
thing.
here.
Yeah, and it is. We've picked the bones out of everything this season, but it is. Congratulations to all involved who've kept us in League One. It is on any level. It's a fantastic achievement. The budget we've got, etc., isn't it?
Yep. Yes. Yes. It's let's just look forward to next season, and let's hope we get a win to wrap things up this season. And when you look at the awards dinner the other night, and they had it at the club in Coley. I think it was in Lounge 6 in 1968. But the facilities now, they've had boxing in there. They got a group coming in, and I mean it's certainly a lot different than it was in years past, and onwards and upwards. So looking forward to next season and what that may bring.
See you in August, Tony. I'll have a pint on the bar ready for you.
Right. Yes, our flights are booked, and I'm waiting for middle of June to see what the fixture list is, and then I can get my tickets, and away we go.
All right, guys, on 3. 1, 2, 3. On Stanley on.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, fellas.